Well, hello. Welcome to the first video inside my home. Today, I'm gonna talk to you about a topic that gets me very, very, very excited, and that is the topic of serendipity. I decided I wanted to do this topic, because I'm in a great mood. It's a nice Sunday afternoon. I've gotten tons of stuff done, been outside, met nice people, and felt like I had a great vibration, a great energy, and I wanted to share it with all of you. But also because this topic of serendipity has come up very recently with two totally unrelated people, and I take that as a sign that we need to talk about it. So serendipity, what is that? You know what? Let's look up the definition of serendipity. Just based on a Google search, it says, the occurrence and development of events by chance in a happy or beneficial way. A fortunate stroke of serendipity. So for those of you who did not already know what this word means, now you know. It's a fantastic word. And it came up yesterday because I had found myself a little more free in the afternoon than I thought I would be. Somebody who I was supposed to have a call with had to cancel. And I don't mind that at all, that's fine. But I just had thought I was gonna have my afternoon blocked off and now found the afternoon pretty open. So I decided that I was going to take a guitar that I had and get it repaired at a guitar store. It was one of my guitars and had a little buzz and I didn't know how to fix it. So I was about to go down to the Guitar Center store, which is like 20 minutes away from my home. And I remembered that there was this little alley near my home, and I had driven by it a few times and seen a bunch of ukuleles in the window. And I was like, I wonder what that store is. There's ukuleles, maybe it's a music store, and maybe they can do the repair of my guitar right there. So I drove down and ended up knocking on the back door, and immediately the person who answered the door also had an energy that I just found to be very warm and welcoming and calm, and I don't know, it immediately put me at ease. And so I said, I have this guitar, bought it on eBay. I think it might have some small issues. Can you guys look at it? I've never been in this store, but it's less than 5 minutes from my home. And the person's like, yeah, we're just a little busy right now. Could you come by in half an hour? So I come back home, spend a little time, and then head back to the store. And I go back to the store, and same lovely gentleman working the store is there. And we just start having this very natural conversation. And it reminded me of other times in my life where I've had some of the best interactions and conversations. And I'm sure you all have had things like this. When I'm thinking about them in my instance or in my life, I think of times I've been on vacation and gone to a bookstore and have really no place to be and no sense of urgency, and I'm wandering around book aisles and someone else keeps catching my eye and they're in the same book aisle, and then all of a sudden we're talking about the same books, or I've read a book that person's read, and there's this amazing exchange, then we're talking about ideas in the books, and then we're going from one idea to the next idea, and now all of a sudden we're having this multi-hour esoteric conversation, and customers are kind of walking in and out are we interrupting something? And they totally are, because there's this obvious vibration, two people are in this flow, in this conversation. And I'm not saying that these are rom-com moments and that they have to lead to a whole particular set of events. I'm just talking about the fact that you can, when you least expect it, when you least plan it, meet someone who you never knew you were gonna meet and talk about something you never thought you were gonna talk about. And the same way I was just talking about stillness, or I guess slowing down in my last video, slowing down and serendipity are close cousins. And that's because unless you slow down, you do not create any margin in your life for serendipity. And serendipity is when the magic of living happens. So yes, you can say this is all very woo-woo, but I do actually find it quite off-putting when I meet people who are so regimented that I can tell they don't have space for spontaneity. And I think I've viscerally been unattracted to this quality my entire life. So as someone who's like, I can only go to the gym every day at 5 a.m. and I must eat this salad at noon and I must like...
Yada, yada, yada. Your whole life is so planned out.
There's nothing against those kinds of people. It's just something I've known since a very young age that I don't believe in that kind of living. And a lot of people wouldn't expect this about me because, again, I call it Free Spirit Lawyer, my channel, because I've realized I've pursued so many things that require discipline and structure, and it completely goes against how my natural spiritual energy is, which is actually very flowy and open to surprises. And I very much believe that like life has so much potential for magic if you are just willing to let go of the reins and surrender, which a lot of religions talk about in different languages. But surrender, you know, it's not just something that modern yogis talk about. Surrender, like the universe, the world is smarter than your intelligence, and so let its intelligence benefit you. So going back to this story, again, similar to the bookstore, which is a real story that happened to me once when I was spending a month alone in Jackson Hole, and I made a friend at a bookstore the first day and ended up bumping into him later at a tennis club, and there's a whole story, and I could give you like 10 stories like this from my life, and you really wouldn't need to watch a rom-com like ever, because these happen all the time. My friends think it's weird when I visit them and like all these lovely people start popping up into their homes and into their lives, and we have all these gatherings because I'm making friends, you know, hiking and in an airport and on an airplane, and yeah, they're like these beautiful connections. There are people sometimes who I think can be a little less emotionally aware and oftentimes can be pushing connection that's not naturally flowing, and I think you need to be cognizant of that. So I don't think you need to be so outgoing that if some people aren't really like in the same vibration and energy, that you're like forcing them into a conversation. And I've definitely been someone on the side of like going to a work conference and just wanting like a few minutes of peace and trying to sit alone under a tree or, you know, have lunch somewhere. And people have been like, you know, coming up to me when I'm clearly like either my head's in a book or I'm reading a tablet or something, and like very much away from the herd, and then they're trying to force like conversation. I don't think that is serendipity. Serendipity is when you have no expectations and you have space. You have space in your life, you have space in your schedule, you have space in your day, you have space in your heart and your spirit. And you're not going into it thinking, I'm gonna meet someone cool and fill this space. You're just like, okay, I have this space. I didn't think I was gonna have it. What should I do with it? What feels right in this moment without any attachment to a particular ending? That's what space is. So whenever I've had that kind of space, and a lot of people don't have it until they go on a vacation, and that's like the only reason they're taking a vacation, when they don't even realize that's what they're seeking and craving. But I try to find that space when I can in everyday life. And it happened really beautifully and naturally yesterday, where I really enjoyed every minute of this wonderful conversation I had with this guitar teacher in a guitar store who I had never met, in a store that was minutes from my home. And, you know, people were walking in and out, and sometimes people joined the conversation for a little and then left, but people could tell that there was like deep exchange happening back and forth. Two people were, you know, just kind of vibrating and flowing and enjoying mutually this conversation with, again, no expectation of what it would lead to. And I do think that it'll probably allow me to have a new guitar teacher in my life and learn a few things. And I think an exchange of ideas to me is like in and of itself a perfect result of a serendipitous conversation. Like if all you get out of the serendipitous conversation or meeting is the mutual like joy that you got from that meeting, and you never have another conversation on that level, never meet that person again, that is totally fine. But this happens all the time when people travel. They suddenly find themselves like open to new things that they aren't open to, right, in their regular life. So in their regular life, they're used to going to the same places and talking to the same people about the same topics, usually at the same times of day, and there's very little space for spontaneity and variety. And unless they suddenly go to a new bar or they go to like a restaurant alone, like they don't get these exchanges. But I think that's why it's important to create space in your life. If every minute of the day is predetermined for a particular task, you're gonna find yourself living a very uninspired life, because you're gonna live a life where you're always going to the same places, talking to the same people about the same things and doing the same activities, and you don't actually need a multi-thousand-dollar vacation in order to imbue your life with serendipity. You really actually just need space. That's it. And so I have another beautiful story about serendipity. It is like my absolute favorite story about serendipity, and I want to do it justice. And so I want to make a whole separate video just about that story, and it overlaps a lot with how the hobby of music and guitar came into my life, but I think that's like a story for its own video, and I'll leave you with that anticipation. But in the meantime, I just wanted to pause in the middle of my day because I had such a beautiful evening yesterday, and it was completely unexpected. It unfolded the way that it did because I had to fill an empty space on my schedule. And I was like, well, what could I do? And I did some things differently than I normally would have. So be open to finding new people to talk to, new places to go, new conversations to have, even if they're in your own backyard. All you need to do is slow down, free up some space, and then follow your intuition. And the minute you start indulging your curiosities, life will reward you by indulging you with surprises and, dare I say, a few moments of magic. I hope that leaves you with a little bit of inspiration and a little bit of optimism. So have a good one, and until next time, bye-bye.